Hello and welcome to the Leverage Podcast. I am Paul Richard, your host today, and we are welcoming Venita Austino from Springfield, Missouri to our program today. She is with Gilbert Financial Service, and we're excited to have you with us, Venita. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm excited.
It's good to see you yesterday in one of our networking meetings, and I had just mentioned before we got onto the broadcast today that one of our other guests recently that was on the podcast was super excited that he finally got to do some video content, and he's using it on his TikTok channel. And so that's just wonderful. So we're super excited to give the opportunity to you today. Let's talk a little bit about yourself first. Give us a background on Venita and how you got into this financial services business. How did you get there?
Well, my background has been all my life, I've been a caregiver, and I've taken care of people in their homes. I've worked in facilities. And so it's always been about taking care of other people and helping them to have the best quality of life they can possibly have. 3 years ago, I wound up in a situation where I went from a 2-income home to a 1-income home. And then I had to have back surgery, which prevented me from going back to work with the Springfield School District. I had been a paraprofessional at one of the schools, loved what I did, connected with the kids and everything. But then after the surgery, it wasn't safe for me to return. So I had a resume out on Indeed, and there was a company that called me and asked me if I would be interested in attending one of their webinars. And they did not tell me what it was about to start with. They just invited me, said they felt like I'd fit in with their program. And at the time, I was kind of grasping for straws because I needed an extra income. So I attended the webinar, and it was very, very compelling. I liked what was said, during the webinar and everything. So I went ahead and followed through with it. And that brings me to where I am today. I can't take care of people physically like I did before, but it's still a way of helping people, especially in the worst times of their lives. I consider it an honor to be able to be there for their families when they need it the most. And so that's my background, how I wound up being an insurance agent. And 3 years ago, you couldn't have convinced me that I'd be an insurance agent, but it's a move I am really grateful that I made. I love what I do.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So it really was birthed out of the passion that you had. Obviously, you had a situation where you needed to make some changes with your income, but on the other hand, it fit right into your passion to care for others.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so many times I think that, people that get into these industries, that does happen. In fact, I had a nice interview yesterday with somebody that has a similar love for children and in their particular business, and that spurred that business on. And so I can understand where you would come from with that. Now, give me a little more detail. What is Gilbert's Financial Service, and how did you come to be a part of that?
Well, the first insurance company that I worked with, there was a group of us that wound up leaving approximately the same time. And we had formed a very close bond. So we decided to see if we could find a different group that we felt like we would fit in so that we could still do what we love to do. Gilbert Financial is the name that the three of us come up with to name our group to go into Safe Life Insurance. And it's blossomed from there. We do, like I said, we do all different forms of insurance, and we're expanding all the time. So if I can't do it today, somebody else on the team can do it, so we work together pretty well on that.
Very good. Let's delve into a few of those products that we talked about before we jumped on the podcast here. One of the ones you mentioned, I don't know if I'll get the name right, but it was somewhat about the end of life insurance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's final expense, and that particular policy is geared more towards helping people be able to pay for their funeral and have everything set up before they pass away, so that when the insured person passes away, the family it's already set up. The family just has to notify the company, and the funds will be released to the family within just a day or two, and kind of helps make the transition that much easier for the family. There's also different forms of the final expense. There's like mortgage protection, where we can set it up to where that not only is the funeral paid for, but people assume a lot of times that when you pass away, if you've got a mortgage on your house is going to be paid for, but that policy only covers the bank. It doesn't cover anything else. So the mortgage protection helps make sure that the house is paid for, helps make sure that the family has funds to live on for anywhere from 3 months to a year or longer if necessary, depending on the amount of coverage that was purchased at the time. So there's a lot that encompasses the final expense, and we take each person and set it up individually for what fits their needs and what they're looking for.
Okay, so walk us through a little bit. What would be some of the questions you might ask somebody if they're looking at the final expenses, a policy?
The big ones are, and this is a misconception with a lot of people, they'll say, well, we were told we didn't have to have a physical. Well, no, you don't have to have a physical for final expense insurance, but they do want to know about your health, because the health and your age contributes to how much the policy is going to cost. It contributes to how much you can actually qualify for. There's some companies that won't write you if you've got a heart problem, or if you've got any kind of a health condition, they turn you down. So the question is that they ask is, have you had a heart attack? Have you had a stroke? Have you had cancer within the last 5 to 10 years? Do you have any kind of diseases like asthma or emphysema? Basic health questions like that. And when they want to know your medications, they'll ask what medications you've been on for a while, or say go back 5 years. There is a pharmacy list, or not a pharmacy list, and I've got that wrong, medication list that the insurance companies can pull up your name and they can backtrack for, I think it's 5 years, to see what medications you have been on. And if you forget something, and we all do, it'll show up on your background. If there's something on there that you have not been diagnosed with, or that you have not taken a medication and it has accidentally been put into your history, you have the right to contest that, and you're given the information on how to go about doing that, and that can be straightened out. Example, myself, had a diagnosis of diabetes and I think COPD in my records. I've never been treated for that, either one of those. Never been told I had either one of those. And so I contested it. They took it to the doctors, and the doctors have removed those diagnoses out of my history so that I could get a life insurance policy that I was looking to get. So there's ways to verify what's there and what isn't, and that helps. Like I said, the basic questions are your basic health questions, and then they'll want to know like your budget, what you feel like you can comfortably afford to have for a policy, because it's the one thing that we really strive to do, is make sure that a year down the road or 6 months down the road, you're not regretting having this policy that you got to pay because pennies are tight. So we gear it towards what you can comfortably pay for today. And we encourage people in 6 months, if you're happy with what you got and it's not what you wanted to start out with, we can always bump it up. Or if you get too much and you start having problems, we can bump it down. It just depends, on what you're comfortable with.
Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And so if people are looking at that, what age is a typical target for that type of planning and insurance?
We like to get them to start out younger, because the younger they are, the less expensive it is and the less health problems and stuff like that. But generally for final expense, people in their 50s and up seem to be the demographic that is more interested in having final expense policies.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And now, can a family member, is there an insurable interest? Like, let's say if one of the children is wanting to put that insurance in place, can they do that for their parents?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm working with a gentleman right now this week as we speak, that he is purchasing the policy for his mother. The only thing that we do on that is the parent has to be able to answer the medical questions and hear what's going on and understand what's going on. And then we can make the pay, or the beneficiary as well, so that when the parent does pass away, the beneficiary is automatically eligible to get that policy. So yes, the children can insure their parents, but the parent does have to have the ability to answer the medical questions.
Okay, very good. And then is Safe Life the underwriter then for that?
There are
Who's the
IMO.
underwriter?
We're the underwriter is whatever company we're signing up the person with.
Okay, so you have several options.
We contract with all of the major. There's about 30, 40 major companies out there that we contract with. We're independent, so we can contract with all the major companies, and they're constantly adding other companies that we can work with. So
Okay,
each
very
one of
good,
your
very good.
company, yeah.
Now, you also were mentioning earlier that you do have supplemental policies. So let's talk a little bit about that. The supplemental policies, maybe begin with the cancer policy you mentioned, and maybe let's walk through several of those options that you have.
Okay. The cancer policy is probably by far one of the best ones to have because we all know people that's had cancer or is fighting cancer at this time. With a cancer policy, they want you to be 10 years removed. If you've had it in the past, they want it to be a 10-year lapse without a reoccurrence, and then we can get you the cancer policy. If you've never had cancer, we can get it. If you get diagnosed once you've got a cancer policy in place, you notify the policy company that you've been diagnosed with cancer and they pay out. The nice thing about that too is that one of my friends in that company, she had cancer about 12 years ago and she had a policy in place. So they paid out 12 years ago when she had it the first time. Well, just couple months ago, about 3 months ago, she was re-diagnosed with it. And because it had already been 12 years and that was outside that 10-year frame, they turned around and paid out again. And they paid the full amount. So she didn't get penalized as far as the amount of the premium or anything. And that comes in really handy because when you get diagnosed with cancer, you've got treatments to go to, you've got doctor appointments, and that helps cover your deductibles and it helps cover expenses that you might incur from having to go have treatments and things like that because you're allowed to use it for however you need to use it once they pay out. So that's a big one.
That is a big one. Okay. Well, awesome. So go through some of the other more popular versions of that. You got cancer, then what are the other ones that are available?
Heart attack and stroke policies, accident policies. We all know people who have some kind of accident. You've got a child that's on a sports team and gets hurt in sports and you got an accident policy on them. It will pay out and help you with the covered expenses that you're paying out, you for the accident. It doesn't matter what kind of accident that you have. If you've got an accident policy, the policy's going to pay out and help you with the expenses of that accident. Same thing with the heart attack and the stroke policies. You notify the company, they'll pay out. And it really does. Until you face these situations, you don't realize that how much they can help until you look back and think about it after the fact. But if you've already got these policies in place, it really helps out. And they do pay out. I've got friends that have had to have them pay out. And it's not like with the accident, it's not just a one-time thing. As long as you keep that policy in place, if somebody else gets hurt, they'll pay out again.
Got it.
And
Got
hospital
it. And very
indemnity is
good.
another really good one. That helps, you get hospitalized and it pays you for however many days that you signed up for on the policy. You'll get a payout for that too.
Very good. Very good. So in your group then, so we've covered, did we miss any in that type of insurance that you wanted to cover?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. So we've got the final expenses. We've talked about the supplemental options that you have. What other areas of coverage do you work with?
We do health insurance now, and we've got some agents that are licensed for Medicare, which is a big one. I haven't reached the Medicare part yet, working on it, but I do have my health license, and we work with Aflac. We work with Aetna and Mutual of Omaha, all the major health insurance companies we're contracted with.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right. And then, so in your you say Medicare and that kind of thing. So you've got two other partners there. Is that right?
Of the original group that come from the original company, there's 1, 2, 3. There's about 4 or 5 of us from the original company that have transferred into Safe Life. And then Safe Life is
Okay,
nationwide. They've got a conglomerate of people that they work with. We're just one branch of it.
I see. So, do you have a commercial location then?
No, we all work remotely from home. They do
Okay,
have let me rephrase that. They do have a major office in Atlanta, Georgia, a corporate office there in Atlanta, Georgia. And every quarter they have a training session and a meeting where all of the agents that can are encouraged to go to that meeting and be able to learn from each other, as well as daily training and things like that every morning, except for Wednesday. We don't have a training session, but we have meetings every other day of the week. So,
okay.
if one of the agents
If
come up
s
with something they need help with, we've got the backup support there to handle it.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, okay, so my other question was regarding if people wanna do a little more research on the options that you have, do you have some online tools or a website that they can visit?
I'm working on getting a website built and set up,
Okay,
but they can call me and then I can do a Zoom meeting with them on the computer if they've got a computer or a cell phone, to where that I can physically show them what they qualify for to make them feel easier
okay,
if they've got questions. And we do free policy reviews. If somebody's got a policy and they would like to have it reviewed, we're more than happy to work with them. They don't have to buy from us, they don't have to go through us, but because we're committed to being helpful to people, we don't have the mentality that you have to buy from us for us to help you understand your policy.
okay. That's good, that's good. So how is your workload right now? Are you a little overwhelmed, or are you just okay, or can you use a bunch more business?
I could use a whole lot more business.
Okay. Okay.
I haven't
Well,
reached
and
the
the
point
reason I
where
ask that is some people I'm sorry, go ahead.
I haven't reached the point where I'm overwhelmed with clients, but I like I said,
Okay.
I love what I do, and I'm working on getting a lot more clients. I would have to say I'm in the comfortable level.
Well, and in that business, you're doing some consulting, so to
Mhm.
speak, probably even a little bit of counseling and that type
Mhm.
of thing in your business, because those are some can be some difficult waters to navigate in that regard. So certainly takes some extra special time and that.
Mhm.
So awesome. Oh, you did mention your phone number. What phone number should they reach you at?
573-826-8839.
8839. Okay. Very good. Well, that's awesome. And that's the best way to reach you?
That, or if they want to email me, they can email me at bjaseniorservices25@gmail.com.
Very good. Awesome. Well, Venita, is there anything you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to ask you about?
I think we've pretty well covered it all.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, I want to thank you for being with us, Venita, and definitely I would encourage those that are watching to get a hold of you, talk about Gilbert Financial Service offerings, the end of life, final expenses, whether it's supplemental, whether it's, somewhere related to your health insurance. Get a hold of Venita and give her a chance to do a consultation with you. And that would be fantastic. So, listen, Vanita, it has been great to have you with us. And I hope we get to see you soon again in another meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for the honor of this, Paul.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You as well. Bye bye.